Hey, aloha, everybody. Welcome to a show from sunny Honolulu, Hawaii. So we've got a good show for you tonight. We're going to be tonight, this afternoon. Good, whatever time zone you happen to be in, we're going to have a good show. We're going to be looking at several pieces from the upcoming Propstore auction, and there's plenty of art, plenty of props, of course, and I think a little bit of something for everybody in this thing. So let me bring Mr. Chuck Costas in and get this thing rolling. Hey, Chuck, how you doing?
Aloha, Bill, and mahalo as well. Yes, I've got my Hawaiian shirt on just for you.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Yeah, I did not dress appropriately for the occasion, but I'm actually going to be meeting Jordan Joanno for dinner today.
Oh,
So maybe
nice.
I'll change things up when I go out to say hi to him. Yeah, Bill's never coming back. That is not true. I am looking forward to coming back, but I have to tell you, Chuck, this is my first vacation. I don't even know when I really have had a vacation in the last
I agree, Bill.
15,
Every time
20
I
years.
talk to you, it's always like work, 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 and it's great to see you, especially with the fine artwork behind you as well. A change of scenes, it's not Thor, but maybe that's where Thor grew up. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, it's good that you get a vacation. Everybody needs it. Hawaii is amazing. I would actually suggest find the local Costco. They actually have amazing Aloha shirts at the Costco's if you can find one. So it's a little known secret about going to
I have
Hawaii.
not seen a Costco, but I've seen many ABC stores since I've been here, and there's one on every single corner.
I see Thomas there. Hey, yep, good to see you. Good to see you.
And here, I was going to throw the link to the auction in the chat for everybody as well too. I know they've gotten it a few times prior to this, but there you can kind of follow along with us or check things out whenever you like, and yeah. So Chuck, we were talking. You never get any downtime really. You're already working on the next one, even though we've got this one coming up, and then when does the auction start? Actually, it's on the 15th, right? It's when the
15th
auction
through
officially
18th. This is
starts.
a big one. 4 whole days this time around. Keep getting more and more. We always start the idea we're going to do like fewer lots, and then we get to the end of it, and it's just like, okay, we've got 1,900 plus lots. I guess we're adding a fourth day. So this weekend, Chuck is working the weekend. We actually decided to do it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. To try to make it, I guess, more convenient for folks that may want to bid over the weekend. So hopefully that works out for everybody. If it doesn't, tell us, and we'll schedule it in the middle of the week so that I don't have to work the weekend. But no, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're kicking off the first day at the Peterson Museum. That'll be the big day with most of the big props. As people. Just to those that aren't familiar with Propstore's auctions, it's a combination of anything entertainment related to film and television primarily. And I think comic art in some ways is now sort of the origins of a lot of the films that are out there. So we do include artwork from not only films, but comic art as well. But it's over 1,900 items. But day one is, we call it the sort of the top lots in some ways, similar to what maybe Heritage does with their Platinum Night. You're going to find a lot of the sort of the big hitters on day one of that, which I think is a lot of fun when you do a live auction. Days 2, 3, and 4, or I would say a little bit more reasonably priced, although there's some fine items that are in all those days as well. So check out check everything is out online at propstore.com. You can look at the whole catalog. You can search. There's actually, and Bill, as we go through this, maybe you can show them where there's a filter that you can just see original art lots if you're inclined to only look at those. But we do have some other fun things. If you enjoy film and television, there's some fun things that you can dip your toe into. If you're thinking about, you may want to get into the world of props and costumes and all that other fun stuff.
Sure. So with the 4-day auction format, you said the really great stuff is on day one, and that is art fall across all 4 days, or how does
It does.
that
Yeah, you'll find artwork, and we'll talk about some of the big pieces that are on day one, and I'll try to point them out. But yeah, no, it goes across all that. It's not necessarily segregated. In some years past, we have tried to put all the artwork or original artwork, comic artwork on one day. This one's spread a little bit more. And I think part of that is also because we're not, as we define artwork, it's not only just going to be comic artwork that we're looking at, and we'll see that in the selections that we even have here. Some of it is more film and television related. Some of it's production, things that were made behind the scenes, in the production of those. Some more poster artwork that were used to promote the movies. But fun as a comic art collector myself. I find a lot of the stuff that we have in there tangential, but a lot of fun and belong in my collection as well. So as you can even see behind there, I've got a little bit of movie art as well as comic book artwork that I collect.
And since nobody's asked yet, I might as well ask, what is on the wall behind you?
Oh, geez, Bill. Everybody's going to ask you that same question.
Exactly.
I will point to this. So this one over here, this is a painting by Jack Johnson. He was one of the artists. You may not know him very well, but he designed the infamous fettuccine poster. Sorry, I guess it's a painting from the end of Ghostbusters 2. And so this is his final version of the painting. A larger version of the painting was created for the film that looks a little bit darker, and then they embellished it a bit for what showed on screen. But that's Jack's final painting of the fettuccine painting. And then off to my whatever this is one of the earliest DC Comics covers out there. That is a Fred Gardner More Fun 47 cover from November, or is it November or October? I have to look at it myself here. That is from September, of 1939. And what I always find interesting about that is if you think about what September 1939 was, it was the month before Marvel Comics #1 came out. So this was like DC's last hurrah as like the big, without having a big rival was that month when More Fun 47 came out. But as far as I know, I think that's the earliest existing More Fun cover. And as people may know, New Fun Comics was DC's first publication, which became More Fun. And this is what they call a pre-hero because it predates issue 52, which is when they introduced the Spectre on that. So, but these are not in the auction. So
I was going to say, what's it doing on your wall?
I like to just show stuff. My wife doesn't let me put my stuff up at home, Bill. So I have to find another place for it, and that's why I work these days. I work at Propstore. So
that's good. So you close to the offices there?
I'm sorry?
Are you actually close to the offices there that it's an easy drive for you, commute-wise?
It is. No, I am about as far away as anybody can be. It's about an hour away. We're in Valencia, California. I live by the beach, so it's going out. It's about an hour each way, but it's against traffic, so there's not too much traffic. That's the good thing. I can listen to podcasts. I can listen to the radio. Enjoy the Southern California weather, which is almost as nice as the Hawaiian weather. Yes.
Nothing wrong with that. So let me see here. Why don't I pull up the website? And you were mentioning it. What is the easiest way if somebody just want to look at all art? Is there
if you go on the left-hand side, there's a filter. I believe it's under categories. And I believe if you go under, I got to get my eyes here. I believe it's under genres, maybe.
There we go.
No, sorry, not genres. No, I go back. What is it? No, maybe it's under lot type. Maybe, yeah, it's under lot type, I believe. And then you can go to original artwork, press that little button there, and then it will filter most of the. There might be some things that get left out, but I believe this will allow you to see most of what the artwork lots are. So there you see a bunch of Matthew Yuricich paintings.
Yeah, that looks like it got it around 180 lots.
Yeah. So there might be some things here and there that may have gotten missed in the filter, but hopefully that gives you a good thing. The other thing I would say is we've gone into Comic Art Fans to try to make it easy for folks, and Propstore has its own listing under Comic Art Fans. So if you go there, we've tried to upload all the lots that we believe are original art fans would be interested in. So it's a good way of sort of double checking and maybe doing a quick scan of the auction. Is just using Comic Art Fans because we think that's a valuable resource to do that as well. And then inside on all those, there's a link to whatever lot you're looking at on Comic Art Fans. You can go directly to our auction and check out that lot there.
Perfect. All right. Well, we want to dive into this preview. I don't know how many pieces we've got. Probably about 40 to look at.
Yeah, let's do them in batches too. We'll try to make it we won't try to belabor each piece. I'd love to hear people's comments. If there's any questions along the way, comments, let's hear them. Let's dig in. And we're starting with Star Wars because I think as we always organize an auction, we always try to include a lot of good Star Wars stuff. And then we've had some in the past. This is just a great Ralph McQuarrie sketch. Everybody knows that Ralph McQuarrie was the guy who designed a lot of the look and feel of what Star Wars was, whether it be through his concept paintings that were turned in portfolios, or the designs of some of the key characters. Here you have a nice sketch of Luke fighting Darth Vader from Empire Strikes Back. And I just think it's great. And I think it's interesting to see the smaller version of Luke there in an alternate pose as well, which is kind of neat as well. But for those that haven't bought the Ralph McQuarrie book, highly recommend it. There's you can see the evolution of the characters in the 2-volume set that is out there. But if you go onto Amazon, please, that's Dave Mandel, Wade LaJose, and Brandon Allinger put that book together, and it's a fantastic resource if you're a fan of Ralph McQuarrie. And we'll get into a little bit. There's more great Ralph McQuarrie pieces in this auction. We didn't list them all here, but there's some nice little paintings from Back to the Future that are in there. If you do a search on Ralph McQuarrie, you'll find a number of pieces. But I thought this was kind of one of the standout pieces from a McQuarrie standpoint if you don't have an example in your collection.
Very nice. And it's already so when did the absentee bids get started for this auction?
When did we start them? Probably 3 weeks ago.
Okay. So
you
started about a month out.
You can anytime before the auction, you can place an absentee bid. And then if it hasn't met reserve, it'll tell you that it hasn't met reserve. In this case, this one's got an absentee bid of 6,000. It's met reserve. The estimate was 6,000 to 12,000. So it'll sell, and it's, like I said, amazing piece.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And then something completely different, but not so different. First appearance, for those that are first appearance fans, this is actually the first appearance of Boba Fett. For those, I'm sure a lot of people out there know he was in the Star Wars Holiday Special before anything else, as far as his appearance on screen. There aren't that many cells from the Holiday Special that are out there. I understand that all of them are from this same sequence of Boba Fett, but this is a nice, big, large Boba Fett image that you get. So if you're a Boba Fett fan, you're looking for that first appearance, looks a little different than what we saw ultimately in The Empire Strikes Back, is at least the color of his helmet there. But, it is animation, so it's going to look a little bit different. But I think that's really cool. Nice. You couldn't ask for more as far as a shot of Boba Fett. I'm not necessarily an animation collector, but I think I would sort of break my own rules and buy this if I was a Star Wars / Boba Fett fan here. And I am. And I would think about it myself.
So in this current auction that you have going on, and a lot of times I know you have consigners, sometimes you get pieces from some of the studios. I mean, what's the percentage between studio and consigner in this upcoming auction, would you say?
I would say, artwork wise, I would say most of that's coming from consigners, because the studio can keep a lot of that. Occasionally they do have archives of animation. Not in this case. This is not coming from Lucasfilm. On the props and costume side, I would still say 90 to 95% of it is coming from either collectors or original sources that may have been working on films and television shows that had this. So maybe 5% of this may be coming from the studios directly. In some cases we'll state that, in some cases we won't necessarily state that. But
now with this one, I was going to say, with this piece here, you had mentioned, that a reserve not met will show, and so on. In this case, there is a reserve on this lot.
Yes, and it's showing you that at the current bid of $2,250, it has not met reserve. The reserves in our auctions, to be honest, most of them are going to be at the low end of the estimate. If there is a reserve, it has to be at the low end of the estimate or below that. And I would say anything that typically has a reserve, I would say, assume that it is probably the lower end of the estimate there if there is a reserve in place. And the majority of them, frankly, do have reserves. And that's something that's a little bit different in the prop and costume world than it is in the original or comic original art world. It's just something where they're accepted. I think people understand that they've got to protect whatever their investment was in the original place. So we try to make the reserves as low as possible. I always tell people we take reasonable reserves on these things. We want these items to sell. We don't want them. We don't want to. We're not putting reserves on there to pump up the market on them. But we understand that people have to protect their, what they may have paid for some of these things in the first place.
Sure.
All right, more Star Wars. So this is, this is one of those ones over the years. I love the Al Williamson adaptations from those 1980s. He did Return of the Jedi. He did Blade Runner. always hard to find pages from this. This is a nice page featuring Han as he comes out of Carbonite in the Jabba the Hutt lair. Got a little bit of C-3PO there. Got a little bit of Leia there. So just, amazing. If you can own an original Williamson, I would grab one of these. And I think, because it's movie adaptation, it crosses over between comic art collectors and people that just like the movies.
Oh yeah.
And last time we were, sorry.
I've always wanted an Al Williamson piece, whether it was from something from Star Wars or from Blade Runner, just because they were so well done. I mean, and the likenesses were great. There was so much care put into those books.
There was. I'd love his EC stuff as well, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I would say, not to say it was his last great thing that Al Williamson did. He did some fine work on Spider-Man 2099 and even the stuff that we saw when he inked the X-Men. I mean, even in his later career, he was still fantastic. But I do feel like this was a period of time. I remember seeing adaptations where you'd see, like, at the Sharper Image, you'd see a big pop art version of Al Williamson's Star Wars in there. And that's, this brings me back to it. And I think it was there were some adaptations that were done really well, and there were some other movie adaptations that weren't so good. It was really the time when Marvel was doing as many movie adaptations as they could in that early 80s. I mean, how many of those bought Annie? I mean, I did. I was buying them all. Time Bandits, it's like you kind of wanted to see the movies as a comic book as well.
Yeah, that is so very true. And, something I know we've talked about in the past. Number One Marvel Fan has mentioned it. It talks about the ease and payment plans that you can choose at checkout and those sorts of things. I guess that's.
I think one thing we've talked about it before, but thanks for a reminder. It's one thing that's a little different of Propstore is that we do not charge for payment plans, and that you don't pay interest on that. We're not a bank. But we allow up to 3 months to pay off your winnings over $2,000, I believe, which, a lot of these things are going to be. But that allows you some time to, you can spread it over your credit cards and it delays some of your credit card payments, allows you a little bit of time to figure out if you want to sell some stuff, how to do that. And, in some cases, too, we will take consignments, as advances for that. You can help pay down your bill through consignments as well. So we do offer that as well. But yeah, I do think that the payment plan that Propstore offers is a little bit different than some of the other auction houses out there, and a nice bonus.
Well, as part of the checkout, that's really nice. I mean, I think in most other cases, you're going to end up having to reach out and negotiate and clarify things. But if it's part of the whole just flow,
yeah,
I'll
say the 3 months is sort of a given. If it's over $2,000 and you're in good standing, we'll definitely give that to you. If you need, if you're thinking about a larger purchase and it's something where you do need longer amount of time, we will, happy to be talking to you about that as well. So in some cases, we may give up to 6 months to a year. It just depends, because we will go back and we'll negotiate with the consignor to make sure that they're okay with getting the payment a little bit later in that cases. But in a lot of cases, we do find the consignors are open to that idea. They understand too that some of these things are large purchases, and they want to do everything they can to incentivize you to want to bid on their items. So happy to do that. So this is a Tom Young. This is the original, I guess, the half sheet poster, which is similar to the, I guess everybody's sort of familiar with what's in the bottom or on the left-hand side of this, but the half sheet was actually an expanded look at what was the Style A poster, and actually came out, I believe, before the Style A poster did, and you'd see it in magazines and other things like that. So this is a Tom Young original. I think the caveat on this is, there were some things that came out of Tom Young's files years ago. It's a great piece. I think there was just a question as to, was this an original piece? Did he at the time when these came out potentially add some additional pencils or other things to that to enhance the image? That was never clarified, and I think that's why we say, as far as the question as to when it was actually, I guess, finalized, so to speak. That's why that is in the description. But I think what we do know is it is an original Tom Young. I think if you were to find a Tom Young and he was even to do a recreation nowadays, it is not going to be of this quality. And we do believe that the original, this was an original sketch done at the time at one point. It's just the question of, was there additional enhancements made to this? But great piece, famous image. I think if you want the definitive Star Wars piece, this is what you think of as the Style A poster. I think the Hildebrandt was a derivative of the original Tom Young design. I love the Hildebrandt pieces as well. I think that was what I remember getting in the Cheerios box. I got the Cheerios poster, but definitively it all started with the Tom Young piece. And I think to have a piece by the guy that created it, one of these, even if it's a prelim, if it was obviously the final version, you'd be talking in the millions of dollars here at this point in time. So, I always like, for a fraction of the price, you can get the prelim, but it's the image that you remember. And yeah, it doesn't get much better than that.
Very nice. So now this one had a set of reserve on it as well. But like you said, most of the pieces we're going to be looking at today have them.
They will. Yeah. And I think it's early bidding. What we also find is the experienced bidders know that most of the bidding action happens on the day of the live auction. So we don't anticipate that a lot of those are necessarily going to be bid up close to the final amount prior to that.
And it looks like you've got a pretty simple way to set alerts for individual lots as well.
That's relatively new. Thanks for pointing that out. We do set it up so that we can give you reminders on your, if you give us permission to send it on your phone. So that's the SMS reminders there, as well as some other ways of doing that. But also say if you're going to bid, phone bidding is always in my opinion, one of the best ways, because if it's 4 days, we keep track of what lot you're bidding on and call you beforehand, so you don't have to think about that stuff. So we'll call you 5 or 10 lots ahead of time. We'll get somebody on the phone, and then you can bid as if you were in the room. And I think that's the best way of doing the bidding myself. But you can bid online with the live auctioneer as well, or as you've seen with these absentee bids, you can place those in advance. And like most other bidding platforms, it's not going to execute it until somebody bids you up, so to speak.
Sure.
Yep.
All right. And I think we have a little bit more Star Wars.
A little bit more Star Wars. Yeah, we're transitioning into there's these, and you can show all three of them. There are three amazing Boris Vallejo, I guess, the prelims, and they're relatively final prelims in this. And it's funny. I talked to a lot of people; they've never seen Boris prelims, and I guess I grew up, lucky enough to have sort of discovered a few of these where he would do the pen and ink and he would use the watercolors. And the first thing that jumps out to you is just the brightness of, I guess it's similar to Frazetta. When you see the pen and ink version of Boris, it is different than his final style, but it is very intricate, and there's some really nice pen work in there and cross hatching and just details that you see in his that you wouldn't expect to see out of Boris, because it's a very, I would say Harlequin romance style that he is sort of known for in his painted format. But the details you see in his pen and ink work are just amazing. And this is three, fine examples of that. These were the Coca-Cola posters that came out. The Darth Vader one was the one that was released in the theaters, and I believe the other two, there's 2 out of 3. The one that is not here is the one with Han Solo and Carbonite. But these were all from Empire Strikes Back. And, given, there's been a resurgence on Boris lately. A lot of the finished paintings have been going up, up, and up, whether it's Conan or other things. Never had a Star Wars. Coca-Cola likely has the final paintings in their archives, and they will never come out. So it was quite a find to discover these. And I believe these are the first time that these are being offered publicly. They're from the William Plum collection, a lot of the other Star Wars pieces that we have been. And so just amazing. And the colors from those watercolors, when you compare them to the final paintings, you see what you see in the final painting, but the colors are somewhat more bright and vibrant in these prelims than even the final paintings are.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. I thought it was, when you mentioned Boris and Harlequin kind of a style, I mean, because he does sort of have that, right? Very smooth. His figure work is, it's very distinctive. I've never really seen pieces like this before. They're amazing.
They are. And I think Boris prelims, in some ways, can be as good as the finals. It just depends on if you like, pen and ink work versus the painted versions that he would typically do. But they're both very beautiful in their own different ways. And to call them prelims is, I would say, it's an overstatement. They are, in some ways, they could be final pieces in some ways, but they are obviously prelims to what the final pieces look like. So, but I love them. And great to find these, because I'd never seen these before.
Well, congrats for
But now
getting
you can
these.
bid on them. So take one home. And then if you're looking more for a more finished one, this was again, little known Star Wars piece that I was not aware of that was done for the Topps Star Wars Galaxy. It was originally done for, I believe, Star Wars Galaxy 2, and then was published on the back of a card on Star Wars Galaxy 3. And we had, I think in the previous auction, we had a prelim that was done for this. And then when we found the final painting that we could offer here, it was nice to be able to put those together to understand exactly what that prelim was. And this in some ways is kind of a hybrid between his usual painted style and his pen and ink work, in my opinion. It's a little bit different, and I think it was done because it was going to be a trading card. It is a little bit smaller than a typical Boris painting would be, and I think that's part of the reason you see it that way.
Interesting. I mean, I've seen a few of his Marvel trading card pieces, of course, and they're going to be a little bit smaller than the normal stuff that he would have done, in his science fiction fantasy works that I've seen quite a few of at IX in the past. But yeah, this is cool.
Some more Boris that nobody knew about, right?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I've long admired Boris's work.
And the flip side of Boris is his wife, Julie Bell. I thought this was just a cool piece that we stumbled on. If you like Seinfeld, if you like Star Wars, this is an odd combo, but the likenesses on this are really good. It was a piece, I believe, that was done when they were coming to the finale of Seinfeld, that they were doing all these souvenir books and all this. And so they decided to model this off of, the original Tom Young pose that you've got there of Jerry. But I love the likenesses on this. So, yeah, cutesy thing. Much actually larger than the Borises that we have. It's kind of a full size. It's kind of the what I would consider a full size Boris or Julie painting. So you've got a great giant Wayne Knight head staring back at you, and if you wake up in the morning, just laughing at you. Newman. So.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm thinking the Seinfeld estimate is low. Costas said, I do. I think this is a case where, you're probably right on that. So, but the good news is the reserve on it is going to be very low, and therefore, that shouldn't stop anybody from bidding on this thing. But it's only at 1,500 right now. It hasn't been met, but yeah, 2,500 to 5,000 could be more than that.
Now I mean, this one has so much appeal across, art collectors and then just fans of the show that there's got to be a lot of interest in this piece.
Yeah. And it's got that sort of classic Boris and Julie look to it as well.
It does.
Yeah. Star Jaws. So we're starting to get into the Star Wars parody section after that last one. One of the very first parodies was Star Jaws, which was a combination of Star Wars and Jaws at the time. And Will Eisner did this. In the previous auction, I believe, or one of the previous auctions, we sold the cover to this and maybe a couple pages. I will call the dealers out there or people that are looking for a bargain. I believe this lot includes 86 pages from this book. At the low estimate of $1,500 to $3,000. If you think of Will Eisner and what a page of Will Eisner artwork should go for, that seems like a bargain if you can get it at that. And I don't believe there's a single bid on this. So I will just call comic art fans' attention to this as sort of the deal of the auction. If you can get this, you can, keep some of the pages you like, split them up, share them with friends, give them away as gifts. But I would take a look at this particular lot.
Oh, that's amazing. Huh.
Star Jaws carrying Jawas carrying a hot dog. Look at that.
I did see that. And how many lots are 86?
I believe it says in there 86 pages.
Yeah, they're all in 14 by 12. Huh.
Well, they're a little they're a little smaller than typical comic art would be. So, but still the detail on the pencils and everything like that, pretty cool. And I just love the fact that it's a Star Wars parody from the time period, I believe 1978. So right after this.
Oh, very
cool. So Scholastic put this out in 1978, according to Jeff there. Thank you.
Jeff is our resident professor on anything Star Wars related.
Yes, and this I was shocked to find that we had it in our auction as I was going through the catalog. So a little bit of backstory. So who out there, you can just say yes. When I was a kid, I was saying I was so poor. I actually missed Star Wars in the theater in the original when it first came out, and so I came back because I lived. For those that know my backstory, I lived in Indonesia back in 1977, and so they didn't have Star Wars in Indonesia for whatever reason, or they weren't playing it at least where I was. So I didn't see Star Wars till 1978 till I got back. So wasn't readily available in the theaters. But when I went to the local library, they had this amazing video that they would show like every week called Hardware Wars. So who there watched Hardware Wars and loved Hardware Wars?
I didn't see it.
Well,
I hate to say it.
well, it was another parody where they had like a vacuum cleaner, and as you can see, an iron. It's like these were sort of household objects. There was a basketball. It was
The Death
the
Star.
Death Star. But I just thought it was. I mean, in the kindest way, it was pretty horrible. But at the same time, you had Princess Leia with the cinnamon bun ears. But it was something that I watched over and over again because it was like the free thing I would see over at the library. So I had sort of buried it away in my mind. And Propstore in the last few months has been sponsoring an exhibit over at the Reagan Library here in Los Angeles. And we're putting on it's a Star Wars exhibit that has been showcasing Ronald Reagan's Star Wars Defense Initiative items. So you got like rockets that were launched as part of that, alongside original props and artwork and other things from Star Wars. And they found the original props from Hardware Wars, like pretty much all the key props, and they put those in the exhibit. And I was like, I went to the exhibit and I was just like, holy crap, I haven't seen this stuff in years. And so I was just blown away by I hadn't been reintroduced to that. I guess they're going to do a re-release of the movie soon, or if it's not out already. And then in our own auction, I find this piece, which is the VHS cover for Hardware Wars. But not only that, the artist Wade LaJose, who I mentioned earlier, who had done the book on Ralph McQuarrie, has been a longtime friend of mine, and I never knew that he had drawn this cover. And so I asked Wade, I go, Wade, what is the backstory on this cover? How come I've never known that you drew a Hardware Wars piece? And he said, he's like, I really wanted the rights. Like, I really believed in Hardware Wars, and I wanted the rights to like market it. Like, I thought it was going to be a great thing one day, but they wouldn't sell me the rights. But instead, they gave me the opportunity to draw the VHS cover. And so he did that. And then he ended up selling the original artwork to Bill Plum, who really, I guess, was also a fan and had built this amazing Star Wars collection years and years and years ago. And so this was become part of the Bill Plum collection. And now we are offering it. So anybody else out there like that, thank you for the comments on the Reagan Library. I thought they did a really nice job there. Sometimes we do, Marcus, we do sometimes get Spaceball props, but I don't think there's any in this particular one. But this is my my sleeper favorite of pieces of artwork in the auction.
And it's got a bid, but has not met reserve yet. So
there's still a chance.
And what were the other items? Was it just like a prelim that came?
These are just like that shows. Yeah, it shows like the final box and some prelims, and I believe it's based off of the. I think those were the VHS cassettes for the original trilogy when those came out on VHS and the special edition, I believe. Yes.
Very cool.
A little bit of a parody on a parody, yes. But something real. So back to real artwork. Not to say Wade is not a real artist, but and by the way, Wade did assist with our catalog for the Propstore catalog. He laid out the sections in our catalog for Star Wars and I believe Indiana Jones. So you will still see his work reflected in the Propstore world. But anyway, Star Trek. Bob Peak. We've got a couple amazing Bob Peak pieces. We had a couple of these related pieces in the past. I love this particular one. This was done for Star Trek The Motion Picture. Was not the final movie design, but had a lot of the same color elements to what you do see. And I just love the idea that you can sort of see the characters. They're coming out of the shadows. Keep in mind that when Paramount put out this movie, it was a big question mark as to whether a TV show could translate to the big screen. And Bob was the guy that was sort of tasked with, okay, this is going to be the movie poster. How would you conceptualize that, and how do you draw people in? How do you make this bigger than just a TV show? And I think it sort of starts with Bob Peak's imagination of this poster art, and I think this is just a fantastic piece, and it's very large as well. I think the dimensions might be in there, but it's a very large, impressive piece in person. If you can, 32 by 39.
39.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
So love this one. And then there's sort of a companion piece, which is for Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. We had a different Bob Peak comp in the last auction.
Right.
This is there were 3 original comps that were done for Star Trek II, and then there was the final poster art here. Here you have Khan, and then he's got the mask on in this one. I believe the one that we had before did not have him in sort of the mask that he was wearing there. But if you're more, I love the composition of that first one, and obviously they played around with the composition on this. The figures that are in the foreground, I think he used a very similar style of composition in, I think, the final piece, as well as some of the other comps, but then played around with whether or not to mask or unmask Khan. Obviously, the final version he was not masked. So this was a alternate version of that, but cool to see. And of the Star Trek movies, pretty much my favorites. Yeah, I think most people's favorite.
I would agree. Easily my favorite. So this is nice. I love seeing Bob Peak's work too.
Yeah, and we've got to talk about Star Trek. This auction is very Star Trek heavy. We're doing a preview event for those that are here in Los Angeles. If you're still around, you feel free to email me at chuck@propstore.com. We're having a preview event with the actor that played Q, John Delancey. He's going to be coming and doing a Q&A, signing autographs, taking pictures with people this Wednesday. You can see a lot of the props, costumes, and some of the artwork that we've got on display for the auction. That's at the Peterson Automotive Museum on August the 14th. That's from 6 to 9:30. And if you still want to try to get in and you're here, happy to get you in, just drop me a line at chuck@propstore, and I will send you a private link so you can register. And then we've got Star Trek from everything from the original series. We've got an original tricorder from Spock, all the way through Strange New Worlds. We've got the costumes that are worn by Pike, Uhura, Spock, and Una. And then we've got stuff from Picard season 3. So really look at sort of the breadth of that, as well as I also mentioned Michael and Denise Okuda. Folks here may know who the Okudas were. They were the Mike Okuda ran the art department for Star Trek, starting with Star Trek: The Next Generation. So the design of things like the L-cars, all the graphics that were designed and on the set of Star Trek were typically done by the Okudas, and they were also are very important in sort of documenting the history of Star Trek as well, in creating the first timeline to sort of string all the events that happened in Star Trek history together, being sort of super fans themselves, as well as also having worked on that. So amazing to be able to offer things from their personal archives, including their scripts, their L-cars, other dedication plaques from the ship. Those are all featured in the auction. And then this, which is a Matthew Yuricich Star Trek painting. Matthew Yuricich was someone who drew a lot of these paintings that were sort of comped into the background. So he would draw a lot of these paintings that ultimately they would superimpose the action that was going on screen into his amazing paintings to merge the different worlds. So this is one of my favorites from Star Trek. This is actually technically a prelim. Some of the paintings are they're called matte paintings. The matte paintings in some cases are maybe 5 feet wide. This one is a little bit more reasonably sized, but it's sort of a lost art of movie making, but from an artwork standpoint, neat to have. So we've got paintings of Matthew Yuricich from Blade Runner, Ghostbusters, Logan's Run, which I think we're going to show one of those in just a second. This is for those that I was growing up in DC, I think we had another painting in the last auction that showed the Capitol building in this sort of state of disrepair. Here, my favorite monument, the Lincoln Memorial. and showing what it would look like in the future if it was overrun and DC was overrun, and by vines and the rest of that. It created this, for me, it was the first view of, like, you always see New York in a state of disrepair and what it might look like in an apocalyptic future. DC was not one of those ones that you typically would see, and so the Matthew Yuricich, paintings, or that I saw on screen from a movie like Logan's Run, really made an impression on me.
So what is the size of this stuff?
What is the size of that one? And we've got, and actually, Bill, if you show that, we've got these kind of neat 3D turnarounds that are in the actual auction listings, which I thought were kind of neat.
This one this one's at almost 6 feet by 2.5, roughly.
Yeah, they're great. They would look great behind you, Bill.
Yeah, they would. They would. What little would the next person at this condo know what they had on their wall, but yeah.
Yeah, you can see sort of, like, we give you a 360-degree turnaround inside the auction, so you can see what the actual how they're mounted, because a lot of them are framed up so that you can get a better sense of what they might look like on your wall, and you can see the back there. You don't see that on every auction site, I can tell you that much.
No, not too often.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yes.
So these
we
are
try
all.
Our best. I'm actually working. There's another one that we'll show there. Actually, tomorrow we should be releasing a 3D scanned version of the full-size Nostromo ship. I've been working with a company to scan that. It took like a week to scan the ship, and we're going to put out an animation tomorrow, because I wanted people out there to be able to see what this thing looked like in all its glory. So hopefully that will. Almost done with it. They should be giving it to me tomorrow.
I want to see that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I want to see the
Blade
Runner.
Yeah.
I want to see the Blade Runner piece he did, though, too. I'm curious.
It's in there. It's in there.
I'm going to leave one of these tabs open and go back to it after we're all done.
Cool. And then we talked about the Hildebrandts. Trading card artwork obviously gotten more popular over the years. Obviously, X-Men '97 made a big impression on people. So offering this piece, I thought was good timing, but also just a really cool piece from the Hildebrandt. And by the way, I know people out there may have heard in the news that Greg they had some recent health issues. I did want to, I had talked to Jean. It's been at least maybe a week and a half at this point in time, but I think she wanted to let people know that he was on his way to recovery. So a lot of love for their family, and wishing him the best as far as his recovery. So, I think this is just a great piece. This was originally offered as 9 different trading cards. So you get sort of 9 trading cards all in one in this piece. And I think there's a picture of Greg with it, so you can get a real good sense of, how large this is in person. It's large, but not too large in some ways. I think it's a large painting. It's impressive, but it's a reasonable size. And I think the colors on this, similar to the painting behind you, Bill, are pretty impressive. So.
Yeah, it looks like it's about 3 feet by 5 feet. It is awesome. I do love Greg's work, and like you said, we've been following his Gene's Facebook posts, about Greg the past few weeks. So it seems like he's really close, to really getting and putting this whole thing behind him, which would be nice. He's somebody who you love his work. He's been around so long, and I've always admired his stuff. I mean, we'd love to get him, out to OAX one day, just because he's just somebody who fits right in with a lot of the work that we're trying to show there. And his history as an illustrator is really unmatched. I mean, he's worked for everybody on so many different IPs that he's somebody we'd love to get to our show someday if that were ever possible. But this is wonderful.
Yeah, I would love to thank him, especially for that first Star Wars poster that made such an impression when I saw the Hildebrandt name on there. Who is the character in the middle? Is it the Beast? Or are you talking about Professor X? Are you talking about Storm? What are we talking about?
Probably this character here. I guess I'm not even quite sure whom that is. Obviously, we've got. I guess it must be Jean, even though I don't know. The costume doesn't. She's got a cape, so it can't be Jean. I don't know. That was the only character in this image that I wasn't sure. Coming out with Cyclops. So
To me, it almost looked like an alternate version of Storm in some ways, but yes.
That's yeah, no, I mean that's the only head scratcher, but still perfect, great image. And what was I'm just kind of curious. So the estimate on here was 20 to 40.
20 to 40, but hey, divide that by 9 and just think what a Juiceco painting goes for these days. So,
Oh yeah, Joe's card art is not cheap these days.
yeah. Yeah, but this is it's 2018, so it's hard to believe it's at least 6 years old, and probably be maybe the last as Gene was saying too, Greg doesn't do much work for Marvel these days, and so as far as great Marvel pieces, this may be the last great published Marvel X-Men piece that becomes available. So I just thought it was fantastic, and I was very glad to offer it, and especially after watching X-Men '97, it kind of renewed my interest in that era of the X-Men.
Definitely.
Not to
I
say
did a quick glance at the outline, and it actually says it's Emma Frost. So okay,
it's Emma Frost.
So that makes sense. Although the costume's not one that I remember, but they're now it all fits together nicely.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Now another Hildebrandt here, Conan the Barbarian. This is a variant cover.
Yeah, this was a #1 variant cover for Conan the Barbarian. Similar. I just thought, Conan for us, it crosses over into the movies. I just thought it was a great representation of this, very colorful. As people also know, and we'll show next, Greg also known for Lord of the Rings, his fantasy stuff. So I just thought it might be nice to offer both a X-Men and as well as a Conan. Again, one of the final Marvel pieces that may be done by Greg, depending on if he ends up doing more stuff for Marvel or not. But just thought it was a good cover. So if you like Conan, you like Greg, it's a good one to take home.
Definitely.
And then Krull. So if people remember in the last, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last auction, we had the actual glaive, and that's always been one of my dream pieces. Unfortunately for myself, it ended up going for like $60-something thousand, I think, for the glaive. But a lot of people don't know that Greg was the original designer of the glaive. Greg did the pre-production work for Krull. So here's a couple iterations of the glaive that looked different than the final version of the glaive that we see. But if you look at it closely, you'll notice some things that do look the same to it. Sort of the middle section of this looks very similar to the final version of the glaive in some ways, except they decided to put the knives at the end rather than these wings at the end of this. And I believe there's fewer arms that are on there as well. But some similarities to the jewel being in the middle and the arms coming out at sort of these angles. But if you can't have the actual glaive, why not have the glaive designs as designed by Greg Hildebrandt back in the day?
Very true. So you would have liked to have had the original glaive.
Dream piece for me. I mean, that again in the most loving way. Horrible movie. When I look back on it, at the time it was it was gold. When I look back on it, it has not aged very well, but still love that prop. It still inspires me. I still think it is one of the most perfect props that was ever designed and put out there. So yes, I would have loved to have had that and then put this next to it, but it is not in the cards. So.
Well, maybe the person who got it will actually be able to put this next to it. That would be nice.
I hope so. And speaking of other, movies that I remember, this, we have an Alex Ross in the piece and a very affordable Alex Ross in there. This was a version of Sam Jones, I guess, that was, I believe, used for a DVD cover. But it looks like it was also personalized at one point in time. But given how expensive Alex Ross's art has become these days, this is a nice, oddball piece, especially if you like that original Flash movie. Sing it, Bill. Come on.
I'm not going to sing it. You're doing a good job there, Chuck. But no, of course, I saw that at the movie theaters. What little kid didn't back then? I mean, I thought it was pretty awesome. Although I haven't seen it probably in 25 years, so I can't say if it's held up as well as Krull has in that same time period. But
I don't know. I think Flash has held up. It's been a while. You're correct. I haven't seen either one of them. We do have an amazing. It almost looks like Doctor Doom's mask. We have it. We actually very cool. We have Sam Jones's costume in this from the Flash movie. We also have the it's gold, sort of Doctor Doom like mask in there. Some cool Flash props, and I think we have like one of the winged Hawkmans or something like that, middle models. So if you're a Flash fan, and if you can get this great piece of artwork, or you can get some props and costumes.
Very nice.
But going a little bit more classic Flash Gordon, Mentor Hubner is really one of those artists. So the folks that work in the storyboard world look up to him as one of the greats. And it's very rare that we actually get to offer an original Mentor Hubner. And the fact that he worked on Flash, this is a really cool piece here. So just thought I would include that to show a little bit of variety of Flash Gordon artwork that you could own.
Yeah, very nicely done.
Yeah.
And what's the next one on that? 2 to 4. Okay.
2 to 4. And then moving, if you want to go a little bit more modern day, again, for those that are looking for sort of bargains, I thought I would put this out. Harry Potter art, not easy to come by, even in the movies. And what these are is a guy named Doug Brody, that is a local artist here in Los Angeles. He was asked for Warner Brothers licensing to do these pieces, and they're based off of the original storyboards. So the original storyboard art is not out there. It is in the Warner Brothers archives. It is not going to be sold. But these were based off of those original storyboards and are all original artwork of classic scenes from the Harry Potter movies. I believe may have been the third movie that this was from. So I think there's 15. What does this say? There's a number of different lots, and there's actually, I think, 3 different Doug Brody lots here that all have different Harry Potter designs. Some of them were just used for licensing. Some of them were these storyboard sort of adaptations in there. But I just thought they were fun, and a potential great deal for somebody out there. Again, sort of, if you got friends, these are great gifts. Keep some for yourself. Give some away to some friends. Could potentially resell some down the line as well. But just key moments in the movie, all signed by Doug as well. There's the Monster Book of Monsters coming to life. But yeah,
really nice. So you said about 15 of these, right?
I think they're different. There's
14.
14 in this one.
Yep.
Yeah, there might be 15 in another, but roughly. And I forget what is the estimate on these. They're not that much.
1,500. And
so
they're on
$11 a piece, which is, if you could get them for that, that's a steal. I think worth at least double that. Yeah, and it's just hard to get anything good Harry Potter. And we do have, for those that like props, we've got a number of Harry Potter wands that are in this particular one. We've got some, a letter. We've got, some autographs from all the key cast that are on there. So some good Harry Potter lots. But I thought I'd go the artwork route on this one and showcase some of the art that's in there.
Sure. And they were all on 11 by 17.
I think these are, yeah. I think I tried to, as I was lotting these, I was trying to keep the images similar and size of the paper. So if people did want to frame up more than one, they would have a good selection of things to work from.
Yes. Now, something a little different here, National Lampoon.
That is right. So for those that missed the cold Chicago days, this is Jack Johnson, the guy who behind me did Ghostbusters 2 as well, worked on Christmas Vacation. So he did the original designs for the Griswold house. And so this is one of those, is showing what the neighborhood of the Griswold house would look like in the snow. I think it's just actually a very nice, quaint thing. Yes, it does have a movie tie-in, but it's actually just a nice portrait of a nice Midwestern neighborhood there. It's very large too. I don't know what the dimensions are on this one, but it frames up very nicely. I love those vacation movies. Christmas Vacation is probably my favorite. I like that, best Christmas movie of all time. Yes, I put it as the best vacation movie. I think it's a great Christmas movie as well. And yes, Elf is pretty good too. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I think this is it. There's nothing, I've never really seen anything from Christmas Vacation from a movie prop perspective. So even there's not much artwork out there from a concept perspective. I know Jack did a little bit of the concept art, but haven't seen much else. I've got a set of the storyboards myself, or just the photocopy storyboards. there's nothing. So if you're looking for something from Christmas Vacation, this is a nice one, and signed by Jack Johnson down there at the bottom. But Die Hard, also great Christmas movie.
Very true.
Gremlins there. Okay, yeah, we do have some Gremlins in this. So another bit of oddball is movie poster artwork, and strangely enough, this is movie poster artwork for Charlie Brown, and this is an original. It's sort of animation cell like movie poster. It is technically signed. It has the Schultz signature on it on the black and white artwork. My my thought is that obviously I don't think that Schultz would have drawn the black and white on the acetate, although it's not out of the question. I would have think that he would have transferred similar like any other animation cell, and then the studios would have painted the artwork in the back. I've never seen a Charles Schultz painted piece, so I'm assuming that this was done by somebody else, unless somebody out there has more information that I do not know about. But it is the final movie poster artwork for this, and I've never seen anything like this from a Charlie Brown perspective. So thought it was very cool.
Yeah, very nice. So what's estimates on that? 15 to 30?
15 to 30. But given what movie poster artwork has been going for, and the fact that that's probably the cost of a Charlie Brown daily these days, or a Peanuts daily these days, I think getting a full size large movie poster piece that's all color, that's I don't know, it seems reasonable to me. At least I think so.
Yeah.
And I guess we should, there's the poster on the next image there, the final printed poster.
Oh, right.
Yeah, pretty cool. Not quite as bright and vibrant in the final movie poster, but
no, the original's much nicer.
It's hard to reproduce those types of things.
Not as vibrant as the artwork I have behind me.
No, that is about as blue can be. As I'm sure when you look out onto your terrace, the water is that way as well.
It's pretty stunning. It definitely is. All right, so now we have a Romita
more traditional
cover.
Yeah. So for those like myself that have consolidated our comic book collection, I think these essential the Marvel Essentials that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s were a good thing. So Romita did the cover for this. I'm not sure if it shows what it looks like without the overlay on it. I think the overlay was put on there for display purposes, but you can actually take the overlay off. This is just different versions of
where it was used
of the book that was printed. There you go.
There we go.
But I actually think it looks nice without that. So if I was to display it, I just might, display it that way with a nice Romita signature on it.
I would too, honestly. The overlay.
It sort of obscures the fact that it's original art. I think you get a much better of what the artwork looks like this way. So, but obviously, later Romita Spider-Man cover, but is a Romita Spider-Man cover, and I am, as I get, it's hard to believe these things are starting to get old, but these essentials are what I've got. I'm looking at my collection of essentials in my office here that I use for reference every day. So this is, although not one of the original images I remember, I do remember these essential images as well.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And reason, for a cover 16 to 32. I think it's relatively.
No, I think that seems very fair to me.
Okay. Well,
now, what do we got?
What do we have here? Come on. You can point out that you can look at this closely, Bill.
I can see Kiss all over this thing, so that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So John Romita Jr., early John Romita Jr. artwork for this Marvel Super Special. Now, this, I do not believe that this is the one that had the infamous Kiss blood. For those that remember, they printed one of the magazines where the members of Kiss put their blood into the red ink so that it was printed that way. I think this was the second follow-up issue. But just thought it was neat. Double-page spread with all four members of Kiss. It just says 70s, 90s, 70s, 80s. And if you're, early John Romita Jr. fan, why not? I think the little flaming heads are replacements. I think on the back, we actually have the original ones that got stained a bit. So there is some replacement artwork that was going on here. But, for a double page spread from that, I just thought it was cool, especially for those that like music. as well as comic art. So
Yeah,
why not
definitely.
offer it? Yeah.
I wonder how often Romita Jr. gets asked to draw, Ace Frehley these days, and if he would,
I
and if
don't
he would do it.
he might. It's kind of looks a little like Kick-Ass, right? No.
Right? Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a little bit of that in there. Well, no, that's cool. You don't see much artwork from.
Pre-Contest of Champions, I believe. This
Yeah.
is around that same period where he was drawing weird, strange things for Marvel. Not the British years, but a little bit after.
All right, so we got some
And
Rob
then
Liefeld.
just to point out, we do have stuff like Rob Liefeld in this auction. So you got Lady Deadpool there with a nice Liefeld Captain America. Does not have the exaggerated chest that people have come to love by Captain America. It looks like a more normal Captain America, but there's a little bit of heftiness from a Liefeld perspective to it. But with Deadpool as crazy as it has been the last few weeks, why not take home a Lady Deadpool fighting?
Yeah, no, I agree. All pencil too on this. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's
Bucky
see.
Cap. No, that's right. It's the combination of Cap and Bucky.
Aha. Yeah, I get confused with Bucky Cap. Okay, thank you, Tim. What do we got next here? I like this one.
Nice feet joke there. I do like it. So, Secret Wars. I just thought this was an interesting piece. It's the sticker adventures, and again, I might go to what the original artwork looks like without the overlay on it. But those that have been looking for a Secret Wars piece, you're not going to find. I mean, obviously, I know the Zek stuff pretty well. I don't think there's many covers that are going to pop up anytime soon, especially in this price range. This one's, I think, estimated at $5 to $10K. This was done by Fred Kidda. Who was when he was drawing the Spider-Man strip back in the early 80s is kind of what I remember from. Obviously, he did other things as well. Mm-hmm. And then colored by Maurice Severin, which is an interesting combination. But obviously, Zek and Layton did the original Secret Wars comic books. They had other artists contribute when they decided they were going to do other licensing artwork for different things like these coloring books. And obviously, if this is the Secret Wars 10 cover with Dr. Doom and the recent announcement of RDJ, I think we'd be talking a pretty big number. And I think, we shall see what happens. But I think Doom is going to end up taking on a more significant role in the Secret Wars storyline as it comes through. So good timing to potentially pick this one up, and nice full color piece. I thought it was kind of neat.
Yeah, we've got Cap on here too, so just pointing that out for Alberto. I know that.
Oh yes, got to point those. I have my San Diego story.
Left out. Yep.
Well, I have a disappointing San Diego story. A friend of mine is a toy dealer. Had one of the Zek on the back of the Secret Wars figures. They had little strips. There was like 4 panels where it had Hobgoblin versus Falcon, and I got to the price and it was like $5,000. I think he wanted $5,500 for it, and I was just like, I really like it, but it's only like it's not that big, and it's 4 panels. So I hemmed and hawed and I passed on it, and then of course somebody else scarfed it up as soon as I passed on it, and I sort of kicked myself for missing it. And I'm just like, well, yeah, here's a cover you can get for $5,000. It's kind of the similar types of things. So don't do what I did. If you like this, don't be, I'm going to kick myself after missing out on that in San Diego. But,
well, we've all had those moments as collectors.
My regret from San Diego this year.
Now let's see. I think so this is from G.I. Joe. Trimpy.
This is yes. I think we got a couple Herb Trimpy G.I. Joe pages. If you've been looking for a Trimpy Joe, they haven't been around for very long. And this is first time to market on this one. A nice Cobra page here, a nice Cobra Commander page on this one. Issue 7 this is actually a special one in that it was Chick Stone inks on 7. So it was a bit of a more finessed version of Trimpy on this particular issue. So like this one a lot. And you got Stalker in there, and you got the Joes as they're trying to infiltrate and find the Cobras. You've also got the first appearance of the October Guard. And now that I think about it, I'm trying to think if those are the Joes in the back or if those are the October Guard in the back that he's pointing to. But the first, this was for those that know the backstory on G.I. Joe 6 and 7. It was originally supposed to be G.I. Joes 3 and 4, but because of the controversy with the October Guard, they were originally the Pravda Patrol, which Curb Trippy had originally introduced in Bizarre Adventures number 30, and they were going to basically borrow the Pravda Patrol and make them the villains of G.I. Joe 6 and 7. Then Hasbro sort of put the kibosh on that of borrowing characters and had them recreate all the Pravda Patrol into what became the October Guard. So they ended up whiting out all the figures on G.I. Joe 6, which originally was G.I. Joe 3. So it ended up pushing that issue out in the timeline, and they ended up, I guess, rushing what became issue 3 out to before this one got published a few months later. Did you know that story, Bill? That's why it's number 4 at the top.
I did not, but I saw that when I was going through and loading up these slides. That I was curious why it said number 4. And
yes,
and, yeah, that makes sense.
That is the backstory.
Now, are these the only 2?
Those are the only 2 Trippy pages in there. Yeah, as far as at least that I'm aware of. I think it's the only G.I. Joe art that we've got in there. But in case those didn't pop out to you, take a look.
It's a nice page too.
Yeah, a little different. It's more team G.I. Joe team. So you can either have the Cobra Commander or you can have the G.I. Joe team. Or you can have them both.
All right. Now, I think you have a few David Mack pieces.
We do. We've got, yeah. So again, sort of crossover between movie art. David Mack did he helped design the end sequence for Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So if you go online, take a look at that end sequence. It's a very creative one. And David's been involved in a lot of movie and television projects with Marvel. This is one that he had pitched himself. That he wanted to do it. He went through a number of different designs. I think working with Marvel, they obviously had different ideas. So this is Black Widow. The final version of this had a slightly different stance for Black Widow, but essentially is this. Oh, there you go. You can sort of see it. So you can see how they sort of changed her pose a little bit. But essentially, the concept was there with David's sketch. Another company ended up animating David's artwork into the final sequence. So the pieces that you have here, and again, some of these were I call them iterations of what became the final version of it. But ultimately, the final version was animated by another company, so it was ultimately digital. But I think it's great to have the original David Mack artwork. David signed those in the bottom left there. This is one that was very different than sort of what ended up coming, but it had a lot of concepts that ended up in different characters. So the skyline of the Washington, D.C., I think ended up with Captain America or maybe another character. Then you've got Nick Fury, and then you've got the Hydra tentacles and the American flag sort of bleeding into each other. So this was really kind of became 3 different versions of that end sequence that they did, but it's here all at once. And I kind of like that DC skyline thing going on. And I like the Nick Fury, and I like the different motifs that are going on here, even if it isn't necessarily the final one that made it on screen. I think it's actually a really good representation of what happened there. And then there's a sequence where Captain America is kind of busting through, and I think we've got an example of that sequence. And this is a good example of one of the layouts that he did for that. So if you're looking for Cap, there you go.
Now you're being targeted, Alberto.
I'm not targeting Alberto. Just letting people know. And I think David's. I love this is very different than the painted Jessica Jones artwork, but it's got its own sort of style to it. And I think that's what's great about David is that he approaches different projects with a different eye to it. And this one obviously had a very Steranko influence to what he was doing on Captain America and the Winter Soldier, as Captain America things should.
Now let's see. This was next piece is interesting. Jim Lee and Adam Hughes.
Yeah, so I wanted to try to have a variety. I'm a big X-Men fan myself, and I know everybody's got their favorite X-Men. So here you're going to see a bunch of different examples of different X-Men art teams. This being the most interesting one. So before, I think this was Jim Lee's, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this was Jim Lee's last official X-Men issue before he went off to Image Comics. And for that, he did the layouts for it and had a number of different artists sort of finish them out. And I thought one of the more interesting combos was Adam Hughes with Jim Lee on this. And so I think you got some really, a beautiful Psylocke there. Obviously, he draws women as nicely, but you got all the main sort of key characters that you're looking for here represented on the page. You got Mojo. So I thought the composition of this as well, from a Jim Lee perspective, was really nice. And then you got, if you ever wanted an Adam Hughes, which I did, especially when he teamed up with Gerhard for your lovely comic art fans convention. But here you can get a Jim Lee with Adam Hughes all at once.
Yeah, you can't say that too often. I'd be surprised if there were any other pages up on CAF. I mean, there could be a few, but still.
So I think there was a couple in this story. So this is not the only one. At least there was at least one other page that Adam worked on, but not many. Not many.
Well, I like it. Definitely like this piece. And keeping with the X-Men theme and original comic art, we've got a Silvestri piece from Uncanny 243.
We do, which is the Inferno storyline. So this is a nice, cool page with Storm, and you got Rogue, you got Jean Grey, and you've got I think it's Sabretooth in the shadows, if I'm not mistaken, and Cyclops there too. So good. And is that Psylocke too? So it's a good classic storyline. For some, Mark Silvestri was their artist, and again, I thought this was just a great example. So happy to offer this one. Nice sign down there in the bottom. Interesting way he signed it on the black. So not too obtrusive, which is good for the signature there.
Yeah, we have a few Inferno storyline fans out there. Just a few.
I think. Yeah, I think just a few. I mean, that was one of the big storylines.
I know. No, there's a lot of Marcus called him out. Our good friend Jason loves Inferno as a storyline. So yeah, I'm sure he's got his eye on this one.
And then what's our next artist combo on the X-Men that we've got here? Oh, little Arthur Adams with Terry Austin here. One of the frontispieces on those. Always love Arthur's artwork. It has gotten a little expensive, especially if you're looking for a commission from him. So to be able to get this from the Savage Land, I believe this was like issue 116, 117, somewhere in that range that they reprinted. And I believe he's carrying Banshee, if I remember correctly, in Sauron's arm there. So, but nice smaller. But affordable Arthur Adams there.
Yeah, no, those are nice, and there's a few of these out there. I've seen a couple, but I mean, hey, it's published, and it is Art Adams with Terry Austin inking it, so it makes it
and that is a fine Terry Austin signature down there too.
It is,
and of course Arthur likes to date things. So what year is that one? Was that dated like 80? 87, 86?
Let's see. 87.
87, yeah.
Very cool.
So I assume that this may have been Terry Austin's at one point if it's got Terry Austin's signature on it.
Mm-hmm. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Now, one of the more impressive pieces in the auction is the Cyclops. Because Cyclops is one of my favorite characters in the X-Men, and this is drawn by Walt Simonson and inked by Mr. Rubenstein.
Yeah, Bill. I mean, you should just talk about this piece. Why is this your favorite?
Well, not only is it one of my favorite X-Men characters, but I mean, it's Walt Simonson, and it's published, right? And that's very rare. As everybody out there knows, I mean, just the idea of getting something that was published by Walt. I mean, obviously, most people are going to want a Thor piece, right? Of course, I think. But hey, as an X-Men fan, you can't be. You can't be too choosy. I mean, this might not be Cyclops' most memorable costume, but at the end of the day, it is published in the handbook of Marvel Universe, and yeah, I mean, I'd be very happy to own this.
All right. I mean, I always love those Marvel Universe pinups. I think they just stand alone really nicely. You got a nice Simonson, it's a good signature placement on all these pieces here, I have to say. But yeah, it does remind me of that early X Factor, sort of costume that he was wearing. It was a period, right, where that you remember from that time frame.
Oh yeah.
And again, being sort of brought back by that whole X-Men 97 time frame there. So, but yeah, I think Marvel Universe pieces, if you don't have one, it's kind of like the Hostess ads. I think you gotta get at least one for your collection.
Yeah, I have I ever owned any? No, I don't think I have. But there's so many good ones out there, and obviously, John Byrne did a lot of them. Simonson did some. Miller did a couple here or there. I mean, they're all classic images, and with Joe inked so many of them, right?
Well, I think Joe. That was the whole point. I think Joe wanted to ink all these different people, so he sort of I think in some cases it was light boxed. I think some of them are.
Mhm.
But the majority of them were inked directly by Rubenstein because he wanted to go ahead and ink everybody. And probably also get back some of the examples, so that he could sell them later on too. But I would say that's another nice secondary bonus to it. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think they're great because they exposed. Not only are they great reference when you're looking for characters, as I do have my official handbook of the Marvel Universes, but it was also exposed me to all the different artists and sort of helped me start studying their different styles. Even though you had Rubenstein that was inking all of them, you could definitely tell the difference between a Boland and and a Simonson or whoever it was. And I
Mhm.
always found it. I always used it as a quiz book. So I would go through the pages and go, "Can I tell who actually drew this? Was I that good?" That was how I started honing my skills as far as identifying different Marvel artists. So
Well, very cool. I mean, you can,
yeah,
and Joe was a great inker. I mean, at the end of the day, he didn't overshadow the penciler's work, right? I mean, I think he was pretty solid in that way, and this piece definitely has Walt's signature tick marks and the way he would normally he'd probably even ink himself. So that at least during this period.
cool.
Now, I think we're ending with some actual movie props, one of which is
Yeah, I figured. I think last time we did
desirable.
one of these, you said, "Why don't we also just for folks that don't know what the sort of bread and butter of Prop Store has been? Why don't we show a
Hmm.
few of their props and costumes?" This is a hat that we have.
From Temple of Doom.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's I guess a famous hat. No, this was a really cool find. Little bit of backstory on this. So yes, this is from Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. This comes from the collection of Dean Ferrandini. May not be a household name. Dean Ferrandini was one of the stunt actors that worked on the film. Specifically, he did the raft sequence. When you see that yellow raft that's going down, that's Dean
Hmm.
Ferrandini. He worked um, in the U.S. There's another gentleman named Vic Armstrong, who's the world's greatest stuntman that you may have also heard of that worked on this movie. And the story behind this is that in the last auction, Propstore offered Vic Armstrong's stunt Indiana Jones jacket from the same movie. And there was a scene where we identified that it was actually Dean Ferrandini wearing Vic's stunt jacket. And so we were looking for some research on whether or not he had some behind the scenes photos showing him wearing that jacket to further sort of ascertain, its use on the film. And we reached out, unfortunately, we found out that Dean had recently passed away, but his family was very helpful. They did have some pictures. And as we were talking to them, they're like, "Oh, well, and are you calling about the hat?" And it was like, "No, we're not calling about the hat. What are you talking about?" And so it turned out that Dean had kept this hat as one of his, sort of prized possessions, having worked on the film. And as we did some more research on the hat, found out that, and we always look for this types of stuff. We look at the bow because the bow on these is the way to sort of differentiate. You can find folds and unique ways that sort of presents itself. And we found out that Harrison Ford also wore the same hat in both Sri Lanka as well as in London in some of the sequences as well. So it's cool. It probably started its life as a Harrison Ford hat, and as they were doing the stunt sequences in the U.S., they ended up sort of repurposing it as a quote unquote stunt hat that
Hmm.
Dean Ferrandini ended up keeping. But it's neat to think that both of those actors wore it, and it was a heavily used hat in the making of that film.
And estimate wise, $250,000 to $500,000, and it's already at 130,000.
Yes, we've sold a few of these in the past. We had a hat that was identified from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it was screen matched to that, and that was that one for I think around 550,000, and that was about maybe 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it's got towards the higher end of the estimate there.
Cool. Now a little bit of Star Wars
A
props
little bit of
as
Star
well.
Wars.
Now,
Yes,
for the
if
Jedi.
you're looking for an Al Williamson page and you're looking for something to go with it, you could have this lovely biker scout helmet, a evolution of the Stormtrooper helmet from the first movie. But this is the first time one of these has come to auction. There may be one or two other ones out there in public hands, but strangely enough, a lot of these have not made their way out there. But this is a little bit of an interesting story on this is that the story on the Stormtrooper helmets is that there was a lot of scenes or a lot of stories of people, the people that were playing the Stormtroopers, when they'd take a break and they'd cut, they'd have to take off their helmets because they were all one piece, and they'd put them down, and it was wasting a lot of time on set. So Nilo Rodis-Umero, who was the person who designed this, he was one of the artists that worked on this. He designed the helmet to flip up so that the actors could just sort of eat their meals and stuff in the helmet and wouldn't actually have to take off the helmets. So yeah.
Trying to save a little bit of money for the production. That's not. Oh, there you go. I had a feeling there had to be one in here where it was lifted
There
up.
is with the flipped up helmet. So really, really neat piece. Like I said, never handled one before. We actually did loan this out to the Reagan Library for a brief bit of time. It was in the Star Wars exhibit that was going on there. For those that got to see it, it is the very same one. But now it can be in somebody's collection if you're so lucky.
Yeah,
and Marcus says Bill should buy a mask.
Yeah, he's all about me buying masks. I don't know why, but yes. Yeah, I should buy a mask, not the mask. Mandel will own this as a #1 Marvel fan. That's entirely possible. Now we know his love for Star Wars related props. But now we have something from we have Batman. This is from
the '89 Batman. Yes,
'89. Yeah, my goodness.
This is I joke that this is like the world's largest model miniature auction because this is 6 feet. We also have the Nostromo, which I mentioned. That is 11 feet model miniature. But this thing is fantastic. It is the animatronic version of this. So at the very end of the movie where the Joker releases the balloons out into the city, this is the Batwing that you see that goes to scoop up all the balloons, and it's got all the functionality of like Batman's head turns back and forth, the flaps open up, the guns come out, and he fires the Gatling gun. It's got missiles. It's got the clippers in the very front that grab the balloons. They built something that worked in this movie to do all those scenes, and it is just fantastic. The lights all work in this thing. It has been restored. The original electronics on this were pneumatic tubes, which is they were air pumped through there, and so it's been upgraded so that it works on sort of normal electronics now. But just a fantastic piece. Fantastic piece.
What's something like this made out of?
I think I'm sure it's some aspects of it are metal, but some of those are it's a hard cast. What am I thinking of the word here? But basically a hard resin, I believe, is a lot of this would be made out of.
Okay.
But it may say in the description as to what's made there. But yeah, it's just amazing that this thing's still around. There was, I believe, a 3-foot version that was known to exist as well, but the 6 foot is the one with with all this functionality. So pretty fantastic.
Yeah, well, I figured it had to be something pretty durable for them to be.
It is. It's pretty hard. You can knock on it. The good thing about this is if you had this on your house and you brushed up against it, you're not going to do any damage to it. It's pretty solid. It's pretty sturdy. Unlike some model miniatures, where if you did have an X-wing, you got to be really careful around that thing. So,
it needs to be. Those need to be under glass or something.
Those need to be under. Yes, those need to be under some type of protection. This thing you can have out and about and show it off to your friends, and it's not going to necessarily get hurt. So that's the great thing about it.
All right, now a favorite movie of mine. Screen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's your backstory on Scream, Bill? Come on, tell us your story.
my backstory. I don't have a
When
backstory
was
on
the
it.
first time you saw it? Like, what impression
Did
did
I
it make
see?
on
I don't think I saw that one in the cinema, unfortunately. So
you?
I would
Oh,
have seen that probably at. Yeah, well, the mid '90s were a blur for me. At the end of the day, I didn't get back. I wasn't collecting comics at that time. I didn't. I just kind of. There was a lull. This is around the time I got married. So I think so.
was that
Maybe I
your
might have.
wedding outfit?
It could have been. It could have been. No, I was. I got married in Vegas, so I would not have worn this to Vegas.
No, you wouldn't wear one of these in Vegas. No,
But you
had
know,
to have
now
an
that
Elvis suit instead.
yeah, no, I had a shark skin jacket on when I got married. But no, maybe I did see this in the theaters because this probably would have been something I would have gone out to see. I don't think I would have seen this on like HBO or something like that after the fact. But come on, one of the best intros in any horror movie of all time, right? I mean, it comes from Scream, so I think yeah. No, I can rewatch those pretty much at any point because they're just as fun as they were the first time I saw it.
Yeah, well, this is a very important Scream. We've had plenty of Scream masks in the past, and obviously we've done a number of Scream movies. But this one was it's Screen Mash, and for those that we've talked about this before, what that means is you can identify certain flaws in it that will place it in a certain frame in the movie. This was identified as what they call the Sydney attack one. So the very first time Sydney gets attacked, this is the mask, and there's a flaw in the eye that you can identify that sort of gives it away. But what's also interesting is that there is the black part of the mask, like the mouth and the eyes, have tape on them, which we also found kind of odd. And we did some research on this. And when they were making the movie, we found that sometimes when the director would want the mask to sort of have a glare to those areas, and sometimes they wanted it to be matte black. And so when they wanted it matte black, they would actually put the tape on it. And so when the production wrapped, and this is the only one we've ever seen with the tape on it, they kept the tape on it. So and then yeah, it's kind of it is the very first Scream mask. So all the rest of them were based off of this. I mean, although it was I believe a mask that was made by or mass produced at one point in time. I think this is the very first Scream mask, similar to the Captain Kirk mask that was adapted for Halloween. And I think that's for horror collectors. This is the equivalent of that. So if you're a '90s movies collector and you love the Scream movies, it doesn't get any better than this particular Scream mask, and so that's why the price is already up to $110,000 on this one. So, and I think it'll probably go higher just because horror just does. There's such a fandom for key horror movies, and this is up there with all the different franchises.
Yeah,
so
no, that's pretty cool. And like you just said, it's over the high estimate. Have you ever done anything prop wise with Evil Dead? I mean, or the franchise, because that's my favorite.
In fact, in this auction, we've got a Necronomicon.
You do not.
We have the only that we've been waiting for one of these to finally surface, and we have the only Necronomicon that has come to market from Evil Dead 2. So yes, that is in this auction as well. If you want to find it, Bill, you can show that. It's actually neat. It's got, for art lovers, there is illustrations on the inside of that as well. But they are evil, and if you buy it, you never know what might happen. But here's a good way of demonstrating how to do it. So you can look at Evil Dead, or you can look at Necronomicon. Go search, hit the search button.
Oh, that's why. Oh no, it did work that time. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Yeah, no,
go.
that's the real deal.
It's
already at $50,000 though.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Huh.
And we have other things. We have artwork there from the Doug Beswick collection.
Doug Beswick. Why does that name sound familiar for some reason? But
that's only 1,000 to 2,000 is the estimate on that. So there you go, Bill. Something for all price ranges.
Yeah. Well, Evil Dead 2. I did see Evil Dead 2 before I saw Evil Dead 1. And I hate to say this is how dorky and I was. I actually saw this at the drive-in by myself because no one would go with me to see it. I mean, it was only playing at the drive-in. There wasn't at a theater. I could not get a single friend of mine coerce them to go see this. Even bringing a 6-pack or something to the damn thing. I couldn't get a friend to go see this thing with me. I literally went by myself, and that was back when you had to grab the microphone and hang it on the window and roll it up and stuff. So this was my introduction to Evil Dead. That's very cool.
There you go. Yeah, not much to your original question. There's not a lot that usually shows up for Evil Dead movies. They were very low budget production movies, so hard to find things. Horror fans love the stuff; they don't like to let go of it. And that Necronomicon, obviously people have been waiting for one of those. We also have a what is it from one of the books from Goonies, not Goonies, sorry, Beetlejuice. So
cool.
Yeah, we've been waiting for one of those books to show up as well. We do have some Goonies stuff. We have Data's coat from Goonies, which I think is also pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Keyquan's jacket, and then there's a whole bunch. I mean, if you have a favorite movie, you have a free television show, do a little bit of Google, a little search on our website. You'll hopefully you'll find something like this, and you'll be like, oh, I didn't know that existed. And that's the great thing I find about this is, with collecting original art, you pretty much know what you're looking for. I guess there's sketches and commissions that maybe you've never seen before that sometimes catch your eye, but you're looking for the published art. When it comes to movies and televisions, you just like there's like a Michael Plug piece in here that I did. He did a lot of behind the scenes movie stuff as well, and so you might find a Michael Plug piece in there. Wrightson regularly did stuff. I'm not sure if we have any Wrightson in this particular one, but sometimes you'll do a search and you'll find something that you like from him too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a discovery, and in something like the Ghostface mask. When we got it in, we didn't know it was the Ghostface mask. We just thought it was another Scream costume that had sort of walked in the door until we had done the research on it and figured out, wow, this is the Scream costume that everybody has been looking for. So, yeah, they should show some pages on the inside there, some of the illustrations on this.
I'm on a slow connection here in Hawaii.
Bill, if you hadn't taken a vacation to Hawaii, you might have been able to afford this.
Yeah, that is true.
Look at that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, skulls. I'm not allowed to have anything with skulls on it. So obviously Evil Dead stuff isn't going to fly with my wife. But
reap that page out of the book and you'll be fine.
That is awesome, though. I mean, Evil Dead 2 is my favorite movie of all time. 87. Wow. Gosh, that's a long time. All right. Well, I think we only had one other piece to look at.
We had one other piece, and I chose this just for you because I figured who else would be worthy than Bill Cox to own a Thor hammer. This is a Thor 2 hammer. I'm always wary of Thor 2 hammers, very frankly, because there are a lot of them out there. But this particular one I saw months before the movie came out, so I saw this particular one. So before before we even knew what it was going to look like on screen. So I feel very good about the sort of the history of this particular hammer. Yes, I just figured that was the way to end it, Bill.
It's perfect, and already at the minimum. But what was it? This was one where the minimum wasn't the reserve. Yeah, so this is no, it's not at the minimum yet. It's at 20. Estimates 40 to 80. Got it. No,
but if you ever need pictures of what a Thor hammer looks like, there you go. Yeah,
well, this is kind of close to the one that I use in the memes and stuff that I film. Although we ended up painting, ours came at where it was very metallic, and shiny at the top, and we found that problematic, like with green screens and stuff. I don't know how the heck they got around that in the movies. So we ended up.
Well, a lot of times, as you can see, they sort of airbrush them so that they have a bit of a finish, like a darker finish to them, so that they aren't as reflective to them. So I've seen other ones.
That's what we had to do. We had to paint it a flat gray almost just to get it to not do that. Huh. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for thinking of me on a couple of these.
Well, Bill, I didn't buy it for you, but you're more than welcome to. Maybe somebody out there everybody can pitch in. Like we can have a raise money to get Bill a Thor.
Yeah, no, that would be nice to have, on the back, wall in some fashion, so that everybody could just stare at it every time I was doing a show. But no, thank you. That was a good way to end it. But I will take a look at that, the drawing from that one Evil Dead piece.
Yeah, cool.
You never know.
Glad we found something for you, Bill, and hopefully other folks. Just to remind everybody, go to propstore.com. That's where the whole catalog is. The auction starts this Thursday, August 15th. Starts at 9:30 Pacific time, which is 12:30 East Coast time. I don't know what that is in Hawaii time, but it's probably pretty early in the morning for you, Bill. But
Yeah, it definitely is too early. But I'm going to
that's
put
all
a
right.
link back.
Thor comes up later in the day, so you should be quite fine by the time that comes up.
I
but
threw
yeah, so we've
the
got
auction link in the chat again too.
Yeah, and so day one, a lot of the top items, and then everything after day one goes back to being alphabetical. So I would, if you find something, just go ahead and mark which day it's on: day one, day two, day three. Save yourself a little bit of trouble if you want to phone bid. We're calling people on all 3 days. As I said, if you're here in Los Angeles, you're welcome to join us for live bidding on the 15th at the Peterson Museum. If you just want to see what a live auction is all about and see some people go crazy bidding, it's fun, and we actually have free food too. So. Hey, why not? And I think they brought it up earlier as far as payment options. We offer that 3-month payment plan, so take advantage of that. And then we take credit cards, I believe, up to 25,000, so that you can use that as well. If you don't want to necessarily pay that out of pocket, so to speak, you can finance it a little bit over time using convenience of your credit cards. Any other questions, Bill?
Not really. I mean, like you said, the auction, live auction starts next Thursday, goes through Sunday. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, Chuck, to talk about this auction,
and if anybody wants to go to this, go to Chuck at propstore.com. If you want to come to the event on Wednesday night, just email me and I'll make sure you get a personal invite to that. Love to see everybody out there. I appreciate everybody tuning in for this tonight, and it's been a pleasure. Number one Marvel fan, thanks for all the comments, Marcus, all of you guys. Appreciate you sort of commenting along and making fun of Bill with me. At least
exactly what I need when I'm on vacation. But no,
Bill,
thank you.
You're on vacation.
Exactly. Well, I know you're going to try to make it out to OAX next January, right?
I hope so. Yeah, I think everybody here enjoyed OAX, hopefully as much as I did. And I know Gerhard is going to be making a reappearance. I don't know if you've made that official yet as far as an announcement, but glad that
we've hinted at it. But yeah, no, he was a highlight of the show for not only for us, but I think for everybody who was there. I mean, he was such a pleasure, and I had never gotten to meet him in person before. And we had to have him back. There was no way we didn't want to have Gerhard not return.
Yeah, it's funny. Ger officially retired this year, so he turned 65, I guess. And it's funny. It's like as soon as he hit the retirement day, he's just kind of like, oh, I'm retired. I don't have to work anymore, or I can just do the things I want to do. Mm-hmm. So there may not. I think the one thing that though is exciting him is this idea of being able to do sketches for people at OAX. So. Mm-hmm. I think, if he does anything, he's going to do some more of those sketches because he was very thrilled that people enjoyed the sketches he did and bought all of them, literally everything that he brought with him. And I think that's a good way of sort of showing your appreciation for him. And he was really enthused on it. So hopefully he'll do it. He'll do it again.
Yeah, I think so.
Shelly, his wife, was the highlight. Okay, well, he is a very fun.
She was a lot of fun. But yeah, when Gerhard made the announcement about retiring, I did email him and I said, so does that mean you're not going to come to OAX this year? And he said, Bill, I will come back to OAX whenever you ask. I had such a good time. So he said retired or not. So that was good to hear because I was like, oh shoot, this just happened. I had to find out, but.
Unlike Mike Zack, who retired and literally has not done. I talked to Mike last week, and we're doing. I guess it's going to be actually an exclusive announcement, Bill, for those that have stayed in. We're actually doing a different version of the Mike Zack exhibit at Indiana University coming up. I believe the official opening night is going to be November 1st. So for those that are in Bloomington, Indiana, or go by there. Feel free to contact me about that. I believe there's going to be an opening night kickoff that we're going to have there. And so I've asked Mike to do some little write-ups just for certain sections of the exhibit. And we will have a combination of Mike's artwork as well as some of my love of movie props that are sort of the 3D representation of those that we'll have into the exhibit. But no, Mike has not done any commissions, and I'm not sure he's going to be doing any anytime soon. So at this point, I'm hoping to get him back into the U.S. Sometime in the coming year, just to at least meet with. He still loves to meet with fans and sign stuff, and But he's
Well,
been
tell him he's got an open invitation to come to OAX.
I will tell him.
I would
being
be
a Florida
happy to
native
get.
himself. Yes.
Yeah, no, well, that's true. He probably still has some friends in the area, but obviously, if the opportunity ever presented itself, he would be somebody we would love to have back. And I honestly, he's a guy. As much as you'd love to have him sketching, I think he would just be great to have at the show. I mean, just like John Byrne, right? You're not going to get anything from him, but if you could have him just be at a show dedicated to the narrative arts and comic art, illustration art, all that, it would be pretty cool to have somebody like that just in the building. I think so. Yeah. Well, you let him know that if next time you talk to him.
I will talk to him. I will let him know. And a lot of love. Like I said, I hope to be there myself. It was an amazing show. I'm sure it'll be even more amazing as you have taken feedback from everybody and thought about it yourself as to what you want to do differently next year. And it's hard to improve on it, but I'm sure you guys will.
We're trying. All right, Chuck. Well, again, a lot of fun hanging out with you as always. Look forward to doing one of these with you again in the future. I know that we're going to be looking at some stuff from Propstore in September, I believe, right? But you won't be sitting in on that one with me. I can't remember the gentleman's name who will be doing it. Is it Kevin? Now I'm probably totally botching that.
Are we talking about the poster?
Yeah, the posters that auction that you have in the middle.
I believe that's going to be Gray Smith. Yes.
Oh, great. That's right. All right, because he's been on once before. Yeah,
he has been on once before. But yeah, he can introduce you to the world of vintage posters, and there are some amazing. He has put together an amazing auction of vintage posters for folks that enjoy that type of artwork. So, look forward to I look forward to seeing what Gray's going to unveil to the world as well. Mm-hmm. So, some really cool stuff.
All right, very good. Well, best of luck next week. And again, anybody has any questions, you can email Chuck at propstore.com.
Yep. CHUCK.
All right, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.